one of the things I really liked about this book, even though it was like really dark and hard to read at times because of all the suffering and the war and the torture and everything that came with that, was how much it combined the political theme and the psychological theme. We are getting everything from the perspective of one person, Helena, who's a healer for the religious order, but she is interacting with a spy from the other side. And so we are getting a little bit of his story as well and his side as well. And one thing that was striking to me was that both of them have this unearned guilt that they are carrying around. So we are seeing the political and social and cultural factors that lead to that guilt. And then we are seeing how it affects them personally. And then because of their position in, like, it's a cycle, you know, you cannot separate and this is how it works in real life. You cannot separate the psychological from the social and the political, because we all have our own psychologies, but we are also social and cultural actors. And it's obviously, especially if you have a particular position in society or something like that, which these main characters do. But it was a really interesting integration between them, the way that she did this. But to get more specific and not stay abstract on that point, Helena has all of this unearned guilt because she's a vivomancer, because she was born with this ability that she did not choose to have, but now she has. And she has to deal with it. And the religious order teaches that people who have vivomancy have stolen that power from another soul before they were born, and so they are guilty. They are thieves, and they must try to make up for that all of their lives. And so this is part of why she lets the religious order tell her what to do and completely burn her out and run her into the ground and sterilize her and do all these things, because she feels guilty. So she gives up control of her own life willingly to these people, because she accepts that she has this guilt for something that actually she did not choose and she actually had no control over, which ends up leaving her feeling like she is not worthy, like she is less than, it ends up affecting her self-esteem in all of these ways. And there's a little bit also where she's she's a foreigner in this country and she is there on scholarship, so there's also she feels indebted to the ruling class, or the ruling family rather, a little bit. But the vivomancy is the bigger thing, because because that is more core to her identity when we meet her, because we meet her in the war. We don't meet her as a student. But then there's also the spy she works with. And the spy she works with is also who's working for the necromancer and doing terrible things in the necromancer's name. And we eventually learn that it's because he could not protect somebody from the necromancer, somebody who was close to him, and he blames himself. And this is something that happens a lot, I think, in war and in situations with force. People blame themselves for not being able to protect somebody, or for feeling like they did not live up to some kind of demand or something like that. It's survivor's guilt is how it's often termed. But survivor's guilt is us trying to make sense of something bad that happened to us. It is because we all have this desire for the world to be just, for the world to make sense. And sometimes terrible things happen that don't make sense. Sometimes people who are evil do things that there is no justice, there is no sense to it. But we try to make it make sense, and the way we end up doing it is we end up putting guilt on ourselves, because if we did something bad, then it makes sense, right? Even though that means that something about us is not bad, but that is easier for us to believe than that the world is terrible and the world is unjust and things happen that we have no control over. That's the other part of it, is we need to feel like we have some control over what happens to us, but in fact, especially in war, but in other situations too, but especially in war, there are so many things we do not have control over, and that's so psychologically difficult for people to deal with. So this character, the spy, ends up carrying around this unearned guilt and doing terrible things in the name of necromancer, and then dealing with the earned guilt from that, as well as the consequences of just being among evil people who do terrible things all the time, all because of this one incident where he felt like he could not protect somebody that he loved.